According to the historical material, more than 2000 years BC, in China's Xia dynasty, people began to worship the heaven and earth. Afterwards, people filled their veneration of the heaven and earth as well as their wonders to the universe into architecture. Then building for a sacrifice emerged. In ancient China, emperors all took the ceremony of worship as a very important political event. Therefore, the royal sacrifice buildings stood out among numerous imperial and capital building complexes and became an ancient architecture masterpiece that comprised the values of ancient physiology, mechanics, aesthetics, mathematics, and etc. The Temple of Heaven located in the southern part of Beijing City is built in the early 15th century. It is 1,700 meters long and 1,600 meters wide, covering an area of 273 hectares, which is 4 times as big as Forbidden City. This royal temple is one of the most important construction plans of Ming Emperor Yongle after he moved the capital to Beijing. It was designed to be a sacred place where emperors worshipped the heaven and earth. In 1531 AD, for higher standard worship ceremony, Ming Emperor Jiajing built the Temple of Earth to worship only the god of earth. Then the Temple of Heaven became a place to pray to heaven for good harvests. It is recorded that from 1421 AD to early 20th century, there were 18 emperors worshipped the god here. The Temple of Heaven has become the most representative one among all Chinese construction complexes for sacrifice. With the layout rigorous, scientific structures, the overall beautifully decorated ancient complex is regarded to be an invaluable heritage in world architecture. While entering Temple of Heaven, people would feel as entering Ming and Qing dynasties and appreciating the culture of worship in ancient Chinese royal family. The 4 most representative architectures are the Hall of Prayer for Good Harvests, Qi Nian Dian, the circular mount altar, Yuan Qiu Tan, the Imperial Vault of Heaven, Huang Chong Yu, and Hall of Abstinence, Zai Gong. The main building of Temple of Heaven is the Hall of Prayer for Good Harvests, which was originally built in 1420 AD. Chinese emperors worshipped God here every year in order to receive good weather for the crops. The hall is a round-shaped structure, 32 meters in diameter and 38 meters high, with 3 layers of gilt roofs. The roof of the hall is blue, built by laying blue-colored glaze, which symbolized heaven. 28 large Namu pillars support the 3 layers of roofs. Those large pillars symbolize various meanings of crops growing and weather changing. The 4 large pillars in the center are known as the Dragon Well pillars, with each pillar representing one of the 4 seasons. 12 golden pillars in the middle layer represent the 12 months of the year, and the 12 outer pillars represent 12 two-hour periods into which the day traditionally divided. Those middle and outer pillars combining together represent 24 solar turns, and all those pillars of 3 layers represent 28 planets and constellations. Adding 8 small pillars in the top of those large pillars, there were 36, which symbolize 36 stars in the Big Dipper. The hall is located on a round marble platform, which has 3 layers and height 6 meters. Each layer is decorated with elegant marble balusters. Hundreds of years passed, many balustrades have been corroded by time. Yet the carvings of dragons, phoenixes, and clouds are still vivid nowadays. Those fine detailed shallow carvings perfectly matches the aesthetic style of the hall, enhancing its splendid glory. However, 100 years ago, the Hall of Prayer for Good Harvests suffered a destructive disaster. It was at midnight in summer 1889 AD. The Hall of Prayer for Good Harvests was hit by thunder, and the fire had lasted a whole day and night. An architectural masterpiece almost faced the destiny of totally destroy. as Qing dynasty following the traditions that inherited from Ming. The next year, Qing Emperor Guangxu ordered to rebuild the hall. Unfortunately, the blueprint had already lost. How could they restore the glorious hall? Board of Works, the official who charged the architecture events of the empire, convened all the artisans who had took part in the maintenance project of the hall, then drafted the design and rebuilt the hall depending on their remembrance. Thus, the Hall of Prayer for Good Harvest today represents a style of Ming Dynasty in the fundamental architecture and structure. At the same time, reveals Qing Dynasty's decorative details. When go through the gate of the Hall of Prayer for Good Harvest, you can see a central boulevard towards south. Innumerable gates and aisles are located alongside this boulevard, which seem as if coming from paradise. It is said that a French architect had visited the Temple of Heaven and then said, "There are too many skyscrapers in the world that are much higher than the hall, but no one holds such magnificent and abstruse atmosphere." The Hall of Imperial Zenith, the subordinate architecture of the Hall of Prayer for Good Harvest, is located to the north of the main hall. It is served specifically as a memorial temple for keeping wooden tablets of the ancestors of the royal family. All the tablets were placed in a small pavilion-like cage. Before the ceremony of worship, Emperor had to salute to his ancestors first. From such historical relics, people could feel as if placing themselves in the old, magnificent ceremony. Another main building is a circular mount altar, which is also called Ji Tian Tai, Bai Tian Tai, and Ji Tai, all of which mean altar for worship. It is a stone platform with 3 floors in the open air, which is a place used for royal worshipping heaven ceremony. The altar is divided into 3 layers, upper, middle, and lower. The numbers of pillars and steps on each layer are all yang number, which means multiple of 9. Ancient Chinese regarded the yang as the heaven. Thus, the numbers of pillars and steps should be all yang number, for this altar was specifically a place holding worshipping heaven ceremony. In the center of the terrace is heaven's heart stone, which is surrounded by concentrically arranged flagstones. There are 9 stones in the first circle, 18 in the second. It continues in this manner up to 9th circle, which has 81 stones, represent the 9 layers of the heaven. There are 2 walls encircle the altar. The round inner wall represents heaven, while the square outer wall represents earth. Each terrace has 4 entrances leading in every direction, whose shallow carvings perfectly match the style of decorations on the walls. All of them are talent works of artisans in the middle of Qing Dynasty. On one side of the altar stands a green-tiled oven. Pine and cypress branches were burned in it to welcome the gods from heaven. Emperor stood on heaven's hearthstone and prayed. The altar is flat and slipper, so the sound could pass alongside the floor and be reflected by balusters. The echo mixes with the original one, sounds as if gods had replied the emperor in a very long distance. The Imperial Vault of Heaven is located to the north of the altar. It was also used for keeping wooden tablets. It is 17 meters high and 9 in diameters, and be repaired in the period of Emperor Qianlong's reign. The design of Blue Dome is well protected as the image of that time. The most mysterious design in the Imperial Vault of Heaven is the Echo Wall. The wall encloses main building of the Imperial Vault of Heaven. If people stand in different distance of the wall respectively, one whisper a word, then the other will hear clearly what he says. After analysis, people found out that such mysterious phenomenon utilizes the theory of sound wave. During these years, this acoustic effect has attracted innumerable tourists. They come to the Temple of Heaven in order to hear the echo of happiness. Thereby, the echo wall became the most representative architecture in the Temple of Heaven. Three echo stones, a third stone on the royal road outside the gate of the Imperial Vault of Heaven. In the reason of the angle between the stone and the main hall, if you clap hands facing the vault, while standing on the stone, you will hear three echoes. Since the sound was coming from royal architecture, civilians thought it was whisper in the world that became thunder in the heaven. The Chinese emperors in the past accomplished their communication with the gods through such way. In Ming and Qing dynasties, worshipping ceremony was especially heavenliness. Before the ceremony, emperors should finish ablution first. The Hall of Abstinence was a place for ablution, which is encircled by two layered royal channels and surrounded by 163 cloisters. In the northeast corner is a bell tower, where hangs a Taihe bell found during the period of Ming Emperor Yongle. Emperors should finish ablutions in the hall to show their respect of the gods. While staying in the Temple of Heaven, you might indulge in remembrance among the ancient woods. Indeed, the pines and the cypresses here are particularly lush. According to the statistics, the number of cypresses in the Temple of Heaven is 4,000. There are even more pines and cypresses alongside the north-south axis line of the inner part and surrounding the architectures. The altar seems even more venerable in such atmosphere. According to the historical material, in ancient China, bottle green represented a meaning of worship and prayer. Thus, pines and cypresses had been largely planted in temples, altar, and tombs. Nowadays, they have grown into plants reaching the sky. Under the eyes of the heaven, it is only these plants who can be the eyewitness of the temple's history. The magnificent national architecture has its unique epical and philosophical characters in comparing with other palaces, churches, temples, and tombs in the world. From location, design to the worshipping ceremony, it confirmed to the theory of yin-yang and wuxing in every respect. Moreover, the Temple of Heaven is as well a perfect manifestation of the ancient notions about heaven and the relationship between heaven and people. In nowadays, the Temple of Heaven for a royal worshipping ceremony has faded away from our lives. While entering the park, tourists would use simple imagination to accomplish their own communication with the gods through a much more light-hearted way.